Towards the end of my film car career, I did a couple of shoots for Top Gear USA. And allegedly, I did a video on one of those episodes that no longer exists on VINwiki for certain reasons. So I'm going to tell you the story of the other episode that I worked on, which was the greatest American pickup trucks kind of episode. And the whole conceit of it was they were going to rent or borrow three of the biggest, baddest American trucks you could get. Big quad cab dually diesels, a Chevy, a Ram, and a Ford. Now, the nice thing about this is I actually wasn't providing the cars for this one. So a lot of that pressure was off. I think they got two of them from press fleets, and I think they rented one of them from a dealer, which was a bad idea. They're going to do their usual Top Gear tests. Now, my purpose in this was more of kind of the stunt side of things. They wanted to use one of the trucks to pull a house down. And I had a friend of mine who is a general contractor, and I got him and his crew to go down and help me pull this house down with a truck. Now, this episode, I think it was the second season, and I got to watch it again just quite recently, and that show was a car show done by non-car people, really. The host, Adam, love him. Hilarious, brilliant. Rutledge, fantastic host. And Tanner. But the production company really didn't have a whole lot of automotive imagination. They were more just about filming things. And the challenges for this show, now that in retrospect, were just awful. There's a town, an abandoned ghost town in California, which I think is one of the largest ghost towns in the United States, that was originally a mining town from the Kaiser Corporation back in the day. And they had rail lines coming from LA, and they moved tons of iron ore and other things up there. And they had 4,000 people living up there. It had a school, it had a post office. It was a complete city created on this mine, which is now abandoned. And you can hire it, and you'll see it in a lot of science fiction movies and things like that. These backgrounds, it's really cool. There is weapon shells all over the place from them shooting guns out there. They just leave everything. There's burnout cars. It's a cool location. So we got there with all the gear. The lack of imagination on what to do with a place like this was phenomenal. One of the challenges was driving up a truck escape road. So these escape roads are gravel, and essentially it's very deep gravel. And when enormous trucks hit them, they sink into the gravel as they go up the hill because they weigh tons. But a pickup truck doesn't have that much trouble getting up one of these. But that was one of the challenges. They got the truck and they're like, I'm going to drive up this ramp, and they drive up to the top and they get there. And then another truck goes up to the top and it gets there. And then they have Tanner drive his Ford, and he has to lose the competition, so he just buries the throttle and sinks it down to the axles. Oh, I didn't make it. Please. Even the crew was bored watching this one. And then one of the other challenges was pulling down telephone poles. And these telephone poles have been up there for decades, and they weren't hooked up to anything anymore. So they hooked up Rutledge's truck, I think, to those, and ran a cable to the top. Now, it would have been kind of cool if he actually had pulled down a telephone pole. But no, they didn't want to worry about it actually not working, and they had to cut the telephone poles at the base. So they just snapped over and fell over, and people were like, "Yay!" And if you were there on set and you're not excited about this, how is this going to make good television, right? And they fell down. One of the next challenges was pulling a train. Like I said, they had rail lines up to this place. It was amazing. And they had a big diesel with a coal car in the back. Back in the old-timey days, you can find guys, the old strongmen pulling trains with their teeth or pulling boats with their teeth. Because the physics of it are different. You're not lifting a train off the ground. You're just pulling it on its wheels. And what you can't see is that it's slightly downhill in the shot. As were the telephone poles. That was all downhill, but they leveled off the shot. And they hook up his truck, and they're like, oh, you're going to, it's 200,000 pounds, and you're going to pull it with the truck. And I'm like, please. Anybody knows. Is this going to fool anyone? And the truck peels out, and the train starts moving, and it moves a few feet. And Yay. Finally, I was like, the peak of this was supposed to be pulling down the house. Like, of a legitimate stunt, this was the thing. And of all these homes, they were like, yes, pick one out and tear it apart. Problem was, and nobody had really scouted this, is these homes were built in, I think, like the 20s or something like that. So it's all what's called plaster and lath interior. It's not drywall. Plaster and lath is they would put strips of wood between your studs and then cover it in plaster. And it is strong. It is super strong. And the exteriors were stucco, which is putting up stucco over chicken wire, again, on the surface. A bomb could have gone off and one of these homes isn't coming down. So me and the crew, is Paul and his team, and it's 90 degrees out, in suits and breathers, because you don't know what they built these homes out of back then, are there with sawzalls and all kinds of equipment, cutting out all the interior walls of the house. We just gutted the house on the interior. Then we had to cut all the walls away so that all the plaster and lath has been destroyed. Then we went outside the house. We wanted it so that you could actually shake it. Like, they'd be able to push the house and it move, at least shudder a little bit. And it didn't move at all. So we went out and cut all the walls with saws to break the stucco. And then we ran them vertically. We still couldn't get the house to shudder at all. We pushed a car up against it. We're like, can we make this move? Not moving. And the stunt's only gonna have one shot at it. We prepped that house for 2 days. We cut every single thing. We started cutting the studs in different places. We cut everything we could cut without like thinking we're gonna all die inside of it. Then we brought a rigger up from Los Angeles who rigs professionally stunt work, because that's not my specialty. And then ran ropes to all the different corners of the beams inside, ran them all down, all these ropes down to a single ring in the center, which we put right into the foundation. And then that ran out the front door. This big cable ran out the front door. And that's what we were gonna hook up to the truck. When you pull on something, you're only creating so much force pulling. Now, I was trying to explain to these producers, I'm like, how this works. You hired us, we're the specialists. Listen to us, please. What you need to do is get the truck in motion. Then you have the kinetic energy of the truck. You have this 10,000 pound truck rolling forward, as well as the traction it has in the wheels. That energy moving forward is what's gonna pull the house down. Oh, that's not gonna look good. We can't get that in the camera. I'm like, well, that's how it's gonna work. No, we're gonna do it a different way. Okay, sure, just do whatever you want. And so their idea was just to kind of have the truck hooked up, the banter would be happening, and Adam and his Ram would just kind of pull and just hit the gas, and it would just pull the house down. There's no way this is gonna happen. I don't care if it has 800 foot-pounds of torque. Not gonna happen. And of course, it just dug in the tires. They're like, well, try it again. And they did it again. And try it again. I did it again. And I'm just like, you have to hit it with the energy of the truck. I can only imagine that their understanding of home construction, of building things, comes from their stories of like the Three Little Pigs. Like, oh, and then we just, it just blows it down and it falls to the ground, or some nonsense, or they've just seen too many movies, because they had no idea how strong a real house is and how difficult it is to pull one to the ground. And unfortunately, in the whole episode, this only takes up maybe a couple of minutes of it. They don't actually show you all the really cool stuff we did, which is a shame, because this was the big finale, right? I go over to Adam and I'm like, this is how it needs to work. Because he was actually quite nervous about it, and I would be too. What if that cable snapped and flew forward and hit the truck and hit him and things like that? So we were assuring him everything was completely above board. But I'm like, you need to back up like that tailgate to the front door and let her rip. Eventually, they conceded that he could go back a couple of feet. And you see that one pull in the shot. Now, my fear was that they would pull it just enough to break it, so it would kind of just tilt. Like, it wouldn't be the big thing that they needed to do. I'm like, back up. So they back up half the way. He hits it, and you hear the crack, and it kind of comes down. That's when I was like, Adam, just do it. Just do it. And to his credit, he sent it. He backed up, and they don't even really show the backup, but he backs out the front door, and then he just hits it, which he should have done from the beginning. And the house just goes boom and splatters. And it's a great effect. Is it a truck pulling a house down? Not really, but at least it was good television, and it looked fantastic. He pulled this thing to the ground. But it was just television producing people ruining their own show, right? Over and over again. The fun part is afterwards, Paul, the construction guy, brought some shotguns. So because this is a ghost town, we ran around with live shotguns, like blowing doors open and shooting things in those homes. We're like, America, woohoo! And that's the benefit when our job was done, the crew left to shoot some more stuff. We were just there to clean up, so we got to play with the ghost town afterwards. I really wished, Top Gear USA had taken off and worked, but it didn't. And from this, you can understand maybe some reasons why. One of the things you don't see in the episode is they were doing drifting of these trucks down. Now, these roads in this town go up into the mines are insanely wide because you have to run those giant, you've seen those pictures of those giant, dump trucks, wide enough for two of them to pass each other. So these long bed dualies, hanging them out was a piece of cake. And of course, Tanner's a drifter kind of dude, and he's hanging it out, and they're all trying to do it in formation. It was actually a great shot, which I don't understand why I didn't make it in, but they're drifting them, spraying gravel everywhere and ruining the front of these trucks. Now, press vehicles, you kind of expect them to come back a little bit hashed. But I think it was the Chevy. I'm not going to remember exactly. I think the Chevy was the one they rented from the dealer, and it was ruined. I mean, the whole front of it just pockmarked with big chunky gravel flying out from these big dually rear wheels. Ruined these poor trucks. But all in the name of good television, that was never used.
This month, the VINwiki Car Stories is brought to you by Extreme Experience. They give you the chance to get behind the wheel of the greatest supercars on earth at the most amazing racetracks in America. I know you'll love it. I just got the chance to drive their brand new Ferrari 296. I hadn't had the chance to drive the car. They had it in town. It was the perfect way for me to experience a great new car. But whatever your dream car is, you can drive it with Extreme Experience. It's also the perfect holiday gift for the car lover in your life. So check them out now at the link in the description below. Ferrari, Lamborghini, McLaren, Porsche, all of it. So check them out now at the link in the description below to book your next drive with Extreme Experience.